All right, let's break down a super simple, really powerful system for learning any language. And honestly, the best part, it's made for people who feel like they have absolutely zero free time.
Yeah, does this feel familiar? I mean, life is just chaotic. You really want to learn a new language, but between work, school, family, and everything else, it just feels impossible. But what if the problem isn't your schedule? What if it's all about your strategy?
Because here's the real secret. People who get fluent in another language aren't magically finding extra hours in the day. They're not pulling all-nighters with flashcards. Nope. They're just really, really smart about using the tiny little windows of time they already have. Let me show you how. To really get this system, we have to start with a story. It's pretty fascinating, actually. It's about a guy who learned one of the world's most difficult languages, kind of by accident. This is the story of language educator Ollie Richards and what he calls his TV experiment. So you gotta understand the situation he was in, because it's key. Ollie was working a full-time job. At the same time, he was studying for a master's degree. And on top of all of that, he was trying to learn Cantonese. I mean, the guy barely had time to sleep, let alone sit down for a formal study session. So he did something, well, a little weird. He figured, okay, I can't actively study, but I do have that little bit of downtime where I watch TV. So he made a swap. He ditched his normal English shows and started watching a 96-episode Cantonese drama instead, even though he could barely understand a single word. Okay, so a few weeks go by of him just watching this show. Then he has a session with his language tutor, and his tutor is just blown away. Suddenly, his Cantonese sounded way more natural, his tones were better, his phrasing was smoother, and he hadn't done any traditional studying at all. And that was the huge aha moment for him. He realized his improvement didn't come from willpower or discipline. It came from something much simpler, massive exposure and repetition. He was just hearing the same actors use the same patterns and phrases over and over and over again. Now, what's so cool is that his accidental experiment perfectly demonstrates a core idea in language learning. It's called comprehensible input. It's all about finding stuff to listen to or read that's just a tiny bit above your current level. That sweet spot where you're thinking, I almost got that. That's where your brain starts picking up patterns all on its own. Okay, so that's the big idea, but how do we take that accidental magic and turn it into a system that we can actually use on purpose, even in a super busy life? Well, let's build it out as a simple 3-phase daily routine. The entire system is built around just 3 well-timed 15-minute windows spread throughout your day. That's it. It's all about creating these repeated touch points with the language. So let's break down each one. It all kicks off in the morning, hopefully before the chaos of the day really starts. And the goal here is incredibly simple. Just get the sounds of the language in your ears. For just 15 minutes, listen to something in your target language. Could be a podcast, a song, anything you want. You can seriously do this while you're still lying in bed or making your morning coffee. The key, and this is crucial, is don't stress about understanding everything. You're just priming the pump, feeding your brain the raw material it's going to use later. So that morning session is just setting the stage for what happens next. A few hours later, we shift from just passive listening to some active noticing. Sometime around the middle of your day, maybe on your lunch break, you take another 15 minutes, and you revisit the exact same thing you listened to in the morning. But this time, you put on your Sherlock Holmes hat. You're a detective. You're listening for clues. Hey, what words keep popping up? Oh, that phrase sounds familiar. You're not trying to learn a bunch of new stuff. You're just connecting the dots. So far, everything has been input. You've been listening, you've been noticing, but this final phase, this is the real game changer. This is what bridges that huge gap between just understanding a language and actually being able to speak it. So, in the evening, your final 15 minutes are for activation. All you have to do is try to summarize what you heard earlier, out loud. You can talk to yourself, talk to your cat, record a voice note on your phone, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's going to feel a little clumsy and awkward at first. That's the whole point. You're coaxing the words out of your brain without the pressure of a real conversation. This 3-phase system is so simple, but it only really works if you're consistent. And this next rule is probably the most important one for making it all stick. Okay, listen closely because this is the golden rule. Pick one single piece of content, one podcast episode, one short story, and stick with that same exact thing for the entire week. I know it might feel boring, you're going to want to switch it up, but you have to resist that urge. The real magic happens in that deep repetition. That's what lets the patterns really sink into your brain.
So here's the challenge for you. Just try this for 30 days. And let's be real. We're talking about 30 real days, not 30 perfect days. You're going to miss a morning session, life's going to get crazy. That's totally okay. Just keep going. This is about consistency, not perfection.
When you boil this whole thing down, it becomes this one really elegant loop that basically mimics how we all naturally learn to speak in the first place.
You get the exposure in the morning, you deepen your understanding with repetition at midday, and you solidify it by actually using it, the output, in the evening. You hear it, you see it, you use it. That's it. That's how this knowledge gets locked in and eventually turns into real fluency. So the only question left is this one. Let's forget about trying to find a magical free hour that you just don't have. Instead, look at the small pockets that are already scattered throughout your day. Your morning coffee, your commute, your walk with the dog. What 15-minute window will you claim for your new language starting today?